Well, I was debating about what to talk to you about this morning. Of course, there are all kinds of things in the Bible. The Bible's an endless book. It's a gold mine of information. It's not one drop of truth and a bucket of truth. It's the whole ocean. I thought I'd talk to you a while this morning about UFOs. So if you have a Bible, turn to Ezekiel chapter 1, Ezekiel chapter 10. And first of all, I'm going to talk about the biblical documentation, then the historical documentation, and the practical documentation. Ezekiel chapter 1. And to begin with, let me say that I do believe in UFOs, and I believe if you don't believe in UFOs, you're mentally sick. By the time three witnesses have given a oath or testimony under oath, they've seen something, it's accepted by a law court. More than 5 million people have seen UFOs. And it's ridiculous to limit them to somebody, in a traitor court or somebody with no education that thought they had a heart attack or something. That's ridiculous. They've been seen by official Marine, Navy, and Army observers through a period of 30 years. They've been photographed, they've been entered, they've been tracked, they've been shot at. There's any question about their existence. Down there in Pensacola, Florida, about 8 months ago, we had a fellow photograph one for 20 minutes in color. 20 minutes. Any question about the existence at all. You photograph that thing in flight, standing still in the air, down a part of Gulf breeze, which everybody knows, and the photographs were all authentic, and eyewitnesses corroborated what he photographed. Any question about being there. All right, Ezekiel chapter 1, here's the first one. Now, this is not a flying saucer. But when I said UFO, I meant an unidentified flying object. Now, this thing is flying. Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 19. When the living creatures went, the wheels went by them, and when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Whithersoever the Spirit was to go, they went. Thither was their spirit to go. And the wheels were lifted up over against them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. Now, that thing is moving, and that thing is flying. Verse 14. The living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. Now, so the spirit of the creature was in the wheels. Well, what's a living spirit doing in a solid object? Unless the wheels are alive. The wheels have to be an organism. In order for the wheels to be an organism, to come alive, you've got to find some way genetically to mix organic life with inorganic life. And, of course, that's what they're working on at the University of Ohio right now, the University of Michigan, University of Texas, University of New York, and all the rest of them. Now, what Ezekiel sees is some kind of a contraption where they're winged creatures carrying this thing. And this thing is a platform, and there's a throne on this platform, and somebody's sitting on this throne like this. And these things are on all four sides of that thing, then it's like a wheel within a wheel. The wheel is either like that, a wheel within a wheel, or it's a wheel within a wheel like that, which would be a gyroscope, or it's wheels that are flat, like this. And this thing is moving. You say, what is it? I don't hesitate to tell you what it is. It's an unidentified flying object. All right, Zechariah chapter 5, I'll show you another one. Nobody's ever identified it. There have been all kinds of guesses. Some of them guess it's aliens from outer space that came down and gave Moses the Ten Commandments and took Christ up when he went back to heaven, all that baloney. But if you read Ezekiel chapter 1 and chapter 2, you'll find that no outer space alien ever talked like that one talked in Ezekiel chapter 1. Believe me, whoever it is that's visiting you from outer space doesn't tell you, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. They don't talk that way. All right, Zechariah chapter 5, verse 1. I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said, what seest thou? And I said, a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, the breadth thereof 10 cubits. This is the curse that goeth forth over the earth, over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on the one side according to it, and everyone that swears shall be cut off as on the side according to it. And the flying roll is a roll like Scripture. It's a thing like that. And if you opened it up, it'd be a thing like that, like a window shade. And that thing is a flying roll. It's a scroll. That's where your word comes from. And that thing's going through the air. That thing's not only going through the air, it's going to people's houses. verse 4. And messing up the house. You say, what is that? That's an unidentified flying object. I'll give you another one. Verse 5. Then the angel that talked with me went forth and said to me, lift up thine eyes and see what is this that goeth forth. And I said, what is it? And he said, this is an ephah. An ephah is like a bushel basket. It's a measuring weight. He said, moreover, this is their resemblance throughout all the earth. Then there's more there than just the bushel basket. And there was lifted up a talent of lead, and this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephah. And he said, this is wickedness. And he cast it in the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of the lead upon the mouth thereof. I lifted mine eyes, and there came out two women with the wind was in their wings, for they had wings like the wings of a stork. So when you see angels, pictures of angels, they're always painted as women with stork's wings. And what you see as pictures of angels are pictures of demons. They're not angels at all. Every angel in that Bible is a 33-year-old male and no wings. Some have entertained angels unawares. Now you got to admit, if angels were like these, you wouldn't entertain one unawares. If there was a knock at your door and you came to the door and there was a 6-foot woman there with stork wings, you wouldn't mistake it for your next door neighbor. And they had wings like the wings of a stork, and they lift up the ephah between the earth and the heaven. Then I said to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? And he said, to build it the house in the land of Shinar. Shinar is Babylon. That's Genesis chapter 10, where the Tower of Babel went up. Now this thing here is a thing like an ephah, like this. And there's a woman in the midst of the ephah. And a weight of lead is cast over the mouth of that thing, so the woman is shut up down inside here. And then out come two women with wings like a stork, and pick this thing up and carry this thing off and set it in the land. If the ephah was upside down, it looked like that. And this thing is carried off and set down at Babylon. And I'll show you another one. Ezekiel chapter 28. Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 19. And the 2 or 3 more in here. These are the main ones. Ezekiel chapter 28, verse 19. 28:19, verse 19. No, 28:19. From the time that it goeth forth, it shall take you. For morning by morning shall it pass over, the sun going over your head, by day and by night, and it shall be a vexation only to understand the report. Verse 21. For the Lord shall rise up as in Mount Perazim. Whenever the Lord said as or like, he's giving you a similitude, and that similitude is going to show you something. Now he said the Lord is going to rise up as in Mount Perazim. That's where David fought against the Philistines. And when David fought against the Philistines, in 2 Samuel chapter 5, the Lord said, when you hear a going forth in the tops of the mulberry trees, then go out and get them. A going in the tops of the mulberry trees. What's that? I don't know. But there's something that moves to the top of the trees, and when that thing moves, then you go out. Verse 21, as in the valley of Gibeon. Now, I know what happened there. That's Joshua when the sun stood still and the moon stood still. That he may do his work, his strange work, and bring to pass his act, his strange act. Then he describes it. Verse 27, for the fitches are not threshed with a threshing instrument, neither is a cartwheel turned about upon the cumin, but the fitches are beaten out with a staff, and cumin with a rod. Verse 28, bread corn is bruised. That's cornbread. Because he will not ever be threshing, nor break it with the wheel of his cart, nor bruise it with his horsemen. This also cometh forth from the Lord of hosts, which is wonderful in counsel, and excellent in working. Now, in those old days, when they used to thresh, a fellow would get him in a chair, and he'd sit in a chair like this, a little kind of a mounted platform, and then he'd drive his oxen out here. And his oxen out here would tread out the corn. And what they do is pile the corn up on the wheat and the barley in the middle of a big thing called a threshing floor. This fellow would sit here on the bottom of this sled with a piece of flint and broken glass and stone. And that thing would go round and round that threshing floor and grind all that stuff out. They get a threshing floor, be a big flat cement place, and pile up the grain like this. And the guy would drive round and round that thing, and that thing was all beat and crushed. The fellow would come in with what they call a winnowing fan. And a winnowing fan is a pitchfork. And on a windy day, a fellow would come out there and take that stuff and pick the stuff like that and throw it up in the air. When you threw it up in the air, the wind would blow it away. That's called chaff. And that chaff would blow away like the summer threshing floor, and the grain would come back down on the floor. That's an operation. That operation is a picture of Armageddon, when Christ comes with chariots and horsemen and grinds people under his feet. That's the picture. So something is going to go through the air, and what's under it is going to be crushed and burnt. You say, what is it? I don't know. It's an unidentified flying object. All right, now these things have historical documentation. I won't bore you with too long a list, but quote the main authorities. In ancient history, these things are usually called fireballs. And the most outstanding one is Fatima in Portugal. Nobody saw the Virgin Mary in Portugal. About 20,000 people saw a flying saucer like a disc, and how Mary must have got fatter around or something real quick. And they saw this bouncing globe bounce around. Somebody said, "Eek, it's Mary." Well, it might have been Madonna. I don't know who it was. But all that crazy Roman Catholic pagan nonsense, they're doing it right now in Hungary, and there's a place in Mexico they're doing it, and one place in the United States. Just like acting like a bunch of pagan cannibals. And I saw Mary's statue blink. She cried. She bled. Okay, throw in the dumpster where she belongs. I thought about getting a rubber statue of Mary and tying it to the back end of my car and dragging it down the street, just to give the Catholics a thrill. And you so, Brother Upman, I just don't believe. You don't believe because you're about half nuts watching television. That's your problem. It's the company you keep. After all, your mind gets so screwed up, you don't know what you're doing. I mean, any American knows an idol is nothing in this world. Don't you know that? Don't you know a statue is nothing, no matter what it represents? Don't you know that? All right, now, Pliny the Elder, that's an ancient historian, has a work called Naturalis Historia, which means a history of nature. He mentioned them. Seneca, an ancient writer, has a book called Questiononium Naturarum, Questions of Nature. He mentions them. Julian, Tito Livio, Ronaldo Gao, Robert Pinot, all right back in the 1st and 2nd century. They mention them. Herodian, this is not the regular Herodian, but the Syrian Herodian from Antioch, writes about him in 170 A.D. Plutarch in the Life of Caesar has a reference. Bede's Ecclesiastical History of England, and that's the Venerable Bede in English history, has them. Gregory of Tours, the History of France, Historia Franconium has them. Alcivan, who worked with Charlemagne, has one in his book called The Life of Charles the Great. Vita Caroli, The Life of Carol. Shakespeare, Henry VI, Act 3. If you have a set of Shakespeare at home, get Shakespeare, Henry VI, Act 3, and you'll find that fireball mentioned. And the most famous one is Christopher Columbus. At 10 p.m., October the 11th, 1492, he comes in the Bermuda Triangle, like he's almost led. That's where San Salvador is. It's in the Bermuda Triangle. And he comes right into it and sees lights all along the shore. And the next day they sail to the place, and there's no shore there, and there's no island there, and there are no lights there. Then John Wesley's journal has a reference to one of them. Now, about the experimental documentation. These things have been seen, they've been tracked, they've been photographed, they've been chased, they've been collided with, they've been shot at, they've been entered. I'll give you a list of people who've seen them. 11 Air Force observers. Now, these aren't pilots or mechanics. These are observers. These are commissioned officers, captains, majors, and colonels who specialize in spotting aerial phenomena. 11 of them. You're going to take that, just throw it out. Say, well, they're all on liquor. Okay, 6 naval observers, including a captain, a commander, and a lieutenant commander. 4 Marine Corps spotters, majors and captains. 5 Army observers, majors, lieutenant colonels, and captains. 14 scientists and engineers, and 40 airline pilots. Now, if you don't believe in UFOs, it's because you're ready for the rubber room. That is more than 60 official observers who spent their lifetime looking at flying objects. And they say they're there. Now, you don't have to tell me they're there. I've seen them. And I can tell you where to see them if you want to look at them. If you want to just spend the summer watching UFOs, go to Texas. I mean, the skies at night, are stars at night, are deep, are something and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. And you get out in West Texas, and this gets you a folding chair and go out in your patio or someplace at night away from the city and stretch that thing out, lie on your back, and you will see them. And you won't see 4 or 5 of them either. I've laid on the beach in Pensacola and tracked them by the hour. There'll be a light up there like this, it'll go this way. And it'll sit there for 15 minutes. And they go like that. They're not green and red blinkers. They're not a regular pattern. I've seen the satellites. I've seen the satellites go by and vanish when they lost the light of the sun going east. Tell me all about it. I've spent over half my life in the air. I've never been in the Air Corps, but I've been up in the air longer than a seagull with sore feet. I've been up in those planes longer than the pilot's been up in those planes. My first plane ride was in a barnstormer in Topeka, Kansas in 1935. Before anybody knew what a B-29 or a B-17 was. And I've seen them things. Now, I know the movement up there. Somebody says, well, it's this new plane that takes, I've heard them go up over the house. I've heard the thing take off right over the house when it was silent over the house and went straight up when it went up. I know what I'm doing. I've been out there fishing out there in Panama City and St. Pete and Tampa with 4 or 5 mullet fishermen at night and seen a light come right across there, go from horizon to horizon in 15 seconds with no green and white blinkers and no sound. Not a sound, just like that. Horizon to horizon, 15 seconds. That's moving. That's moving. You said you believe in UFOs. You do if you got any sense, you do. The Secretary of the Navy saw a UFO. Do you know one reason I know the UFOs, absolutely for certain? Is because all these years of flying, I observed something. 1939, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, and 51, 52, 53, 54. When you get in the plane, you say fasten your seatbelts when you take off. You start to land, he says fasten your seatbelt. When he starts to land to say fasten your seatbelt, he is always down under 2,000 feet before he says that. Most of the time, he's under 1,000 before he says it. Most times he says fasten your seatbelt, the plane is coming in and you can see the ground below you easily. I mean, everything's right there. And I flew Allegheny and Mohawk and Piedmont and TWA and Lake Central and North Central and Braniff and National and Capital and TWA and Eastern and Southern and Texarkana and Texas, while some of the airlines I've flown are not even in existence anymore. National went out years ago. And listen, you fly those things and they say fasten your seatbelt when you take off and you land. Then suddenly, along about 1964 someplace, the guy began to say, when you got up there, for your safety and convenience. Look out. Boy, when a guy says for your convenience, you know what that means? That means for his convenience. For your convenience. Don't kid me. I get letters all the time, you know. For your safety, for your convenience, please don't fold, mutilate, or staple. I fold them and send them back. I fold. And I write, for your convenience, send one that matches my envelopes, not yours. You know, for your convenience, wait to be seated. I never wait to be seated. I go in and sit down. You say, why? Because that's there for their convenience. I don't appreciate people lying to me. I'm a funny kind of fellow. I resent a fellow acting like he's trying to help me when he's trying to help himself. I resent that. And it isn't because I'm just touchy. It's just because I believe in being straight. I'm not going to pretend like I'm helping you when you're helping me. Why should you pretend like you're helping me when I'm helping you? I'll get back to this thing in a minute, but I was raised on a day when you got service. Now, I'm in the movie for so long, I wouldn't know if I saw one, but when we went to movies when I was a boy, an usher met you at the door and took you down with a flashlight to your seat. When I was a boy, you got in the elevator, and was at a 10 in the elevator that asked you which floor you wanted to go to. Why, folks say there's no jobs. There are all kinds of jobs. People just don't want them. I mean, you got service. Back when I was a boy, you come in place, they say, can I help you? And said, no, just looking around. They say, if there's anything you like, call me, and went on about what they were doing. Now they say, anything you want, just look around. Can I show you anything? No thanks. But what especially? Shut your mouth and get out of my way. It's a strange age. You sound, now I know these things because I've circulated, you see. I never dreamed when I was a boy, one of these boys along here, if you told me I'd spend half my life in motels and airplanes, I wouldn't know what you're talking about. But I guess I eat out, a day, 2 meals a day, that's 700 meals in a year. Of those 700 meals, I'd say 400 of them are in restaurants. 400 out of 700. I know restaurants. The waitress comes by and says, can I help you? And you start. And while you're starting, she's thinking of the question she's going to ask you. She don't hear a word you're saying. To here or to go, big or small, rye or white, with or without, sugar or sweeter, butter or mayonnaise. Start next. When you get through, you get the wrong order. You wonder what's happened. Why, the woman didn't hear what you said. I've been in places just down there. I saw an English muffin, 2 orders of bacon, real crisp. In it comes 1 order of bacon. Oh, sorry. Next time, want an English muffin with 2 orders of bacon, real crisp. In comes an English muffin, doesn't have any butter on it. You ask for the butter comes in hard as a brick, and you can't put it on the muffin. I saw an English muffin, 2 orders of bacon. In they come, and they're taking the bacon, wrap it around your finger. I saw an English muffin, and I want 2 orders of bacon, real crisp. Real crisp? Yes, sir, real crisp. Thank you. It comes in, you can wrap it around your finger, shoot flies with it. They are not there to wait on you. You are there to wait on them. I resent that. I'm going by a cash register one time and say, oh, you $1.50. You want nickels or quarters? You want quarters or dimes? How many quarters? How many dimes? You want Indian head pennies or Abraham Lincoln pennies? You want 2 $1 bills and rest in change, or do you want the rest in change and 4 $1 bills? Well, anyway, you get in this plane and you take off, and now when you're up in the air, for your safety and convenience, please keep your seatbelt fastened while you're in flight. Why? What's convenient about being strapped on a flight, the whole flight, when you're 30,000 feet in the air or 36,000 feet in the air in a jet stream? Well, that ride up there is smoother than a Greyhound bus. You get to 32 and 36,000 feet, it's just like going on a blacktop that's brand new. It's even smooth. What's the seatbelt for? Don't kid me. You're not expecting sudden turbulence. Unless you're expecting to encounter something up there you ain't ready for. And that's 1964, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70. They've been doing it ever since. You know why that is? Because about 17 commercial pilots like to kill their people banging around the cabin, ducking stuff up there. The pilots saw them. Now, if you don't believe them, okay, but the pilots got better sense. They seen them. Now, the question comes up, what are these things? I've got at home probably one of the most extensive libraries on UFOs you ever saw, and I must confess, I really think that about, maybe 2/3 of it is fiction. It's kind of a Darth Vader, Star Wars type of stuff. I think about 2/3 is made up. But if 2/3 was made up, then that still leaves you with about 15 books you've got to give account for. Some people say that the things who ride these UFOs are small and green. Some say they're large and gray. Some say they look like they have rubber scales. Some of them say they have ears but no eyes. Some of them say they have eyes and nose and no ears. Some of them say they look like they have uniforms on. Some of them say they're metallic. Some of them say they walk with their legs, their arms almost dragging the ground like an ape. There are every kind of description you can imagine. Most of them say they hang around the power plants. Some of them say they see them siphon water out of dams or pools or lakes. All kinds of stuff you can get on it. One of them says they're talking a guttural-like German. And somebody thinks there was a bunch of German scientists playing rockets, or something. But I've got stuff at home that shows that Hitler went to the South Pole when he got out of Berlin, and he's down there, making rockets and all this stuff. I got some of the wildest stuff you ever saw in your life. If I published all the stuff I'd get, you'd know we were a cult. But I don't publish it. But you take that stuff and they say, what is that stuff? Well, I don't know. I've never seen a UFO occupant. I've never seen a flying saucer. But I've seen UFOs. I've seen unidentified flying objects by the score. And you say, what are these things here? I don't know exactly what they are, but I'll show you in a minute what I think they are. Now, they can only come from one of three places. They're terrestrial, that means on this earth, or they're extraterrestrial, that means they come from off this earth, or they're intraterrestrial, which means they come from down under the earth. So you've got to say it in, big words to charge folks money. That means upstairs, downstairs, in the middle, what that means. And the question is, where did they come from? They had a report years ago called the Condon Report, called Project Blue Book, and they reported on this thing, and it cost the taxpayers $523,000, and the Air Force let the Colorado University publish the Bantam book on it and keep the royalties, and they secured congressional hearings for UFO witnesses, and then they were forbidden to submit the photograph, the evidence that they got, and they were forbidden to give the testimony, and they were forbidden the information, and the CIA and the Air Force stopped this thing cold in 1968, so it never got out. When the Condon Report finally got out, the ultimate conclusion of the Condon Report was no such thing as UFOs exist. Everybody who's seen one is mentally unbalanced. They investigated 59 out of 500 cases, did not give full investigation of these cases. When the AAAS asked for an inquiry and almost got it, the Air Force announced the project was closed, and all witnesses were either liars or deluded. No one had ever seen a UFO. 1969. The report began in 1966. There were 15 sightings during the examination. While they were carrying on the examination, 15 people saw them. Dr. Edward Condon threw out all the evidence, all the photos, and all the witnesses. Charles Bennett of Denver decided the witnesses should be investigated instead of the sightings. He said they were all crazy. I had a fellow one time in Canton, Ohio, that told me he'd been on a flying saucer. And he's connected with Goodrich or Goodyear, I forget, rubber or something, one of the corporations. And, of course, I didn't particularly believe that, but I listened to him. And then one day I got through the mail a book about 30 pages, not in regular print like a published work, but like a Xerox thing that shows you how to build a UFO. And not being a physicist and know nothing about it, I took it to one of my young men who had an IQ about 170 and been fooling around with Massachusetts Institute of Technology for several years. And I said, how about checking this thing out and tell me if this thing's real? And he checked it out, then took it to some guy that taught him up in Boston, Massachusetts. He said, yeah, that worked. But he said, the trouble is that book doesn't tell you what kind of material to use, and if you didn't have the right material, you couldn't build that machine. But here's what that thing had. That thing had a thing like this, and then an inner circle like this. It was kind of a wheel within a wheel, that thing. And the operating part was in here, the cabinet of machinery, and this was an outside thing here, that spun like a frisbee. That's the nearest thing you get to it. And when this thing tore on like this and made a right angle turn at, say, 2,000 miles an hour, which, would have been enough to jolt you up if you hit the cabin head. Well, that thing made a right angle turn like that. As this disc revolved this way, outer disc, and made the turn, the inner disc countered it, so the inner disc was actually making the turn like this. And was making a right angle turn. And that's how the occupants inside got through. There's some other things. That thing there had information instruction on bending light rays, which I found very interesting in view of work I got a hold of many years ago about a ship called the USS Eldridge. Now, the way this thing happens is, I believe the latest counterfeit of it, the latest copy, is this invisible bomber they're trying to get a hold of. Is it a bomber, Brother Sal? Or what is it? Invisible bomber. And that thing is kind of a cliche, a news media cliche for saying it's hard to see. But the trick is to make it completely invisible. Now, how do you do that? Well, here's what Einstein said. And God knows he didn't have the brain God gave a brass monkey. I mean, Einstein's contribution to the world was an atom bomb. Do you appreciate that? I mean, here's this fellow sitting around and saying, with the speed of light, and if you have your picture in front of a mirror and the light, you're traveling at the speed of light with your reflection, all that stuff. And when he got through, he got you something so small you couldn't see it, about to blow you to kingdom come. That ain't a very bright fella. Let me tell you, the man that invented the sewing machine did more for humanity than Einstein did. All right, now here's what Einstein said. Einstein said, if you're here, an object is here, an object's here, that these rays that go here will miss you can be bent by gravitation. See the object behind the object here. Now, in theory, this is what this would mean, if you could do it. It means you could take the rays, the light rays that come from that board, and wrap those things around me this way, you'd have H.G. Wells' Invisible Man. You couldn't see me. If there's some way to bend those rays around here to block out this object could move around, and all you'd see is the board. And way back, many years ago, many years ago, a ship left Newport News, Virginia, and docked at Norfolk a while, and then left there for a while. And that ship was called the USS Eldridge. Now I got the exact identification of that thing here somewhere, but I'm not a Navy man and don't know much about this, what this thing was. It's let's see if I can get the exact name of this thing. I never was any good with the Navy stuff. I don't see it right here. Maybe from the other. It's some type of a cruiser, but it has a certain name to it. And it's a technical name which I don't understand. If you want to get the details on it, here's the book to get. I'll give you the book, and then you can get all the details on it. It's called The Philadelphia Experiment, and it's by Grosset and Dunlap, New York, and the last work was 1979, and the book deals with the unified field theory, unified force field theory, and it gives the eyewitness account of what took place on the USS Eldridge back during World War II when the thing went out. And it sailed out, and my notes say electric camouflage by pulsating energy fields. Eyewitnesses, Morris K. Jessup, Carlos Olinda, October 43. They conducted experiments out there and went out and went through these things. And when they went through these things and the ship came back, about a fourth of the crew got drunk and stayed drunk. About a fourth of the crew got discharges for being out of their mind. A bunch of the rest of them committed suicide, and the rest of them vanished into nowhere. And when they conducted experiments out there, it got bad because they couldn't control what they were handling. They were experimenting. And by the way, these experiments were showed by film to leaders in the U.S. Navy after the thing was over, and they saw the stuff photographed and didn't make any comment on it. What would happen was they get out there and they'd photograph the ship next to them, and the ship next to them would disappear. Literally. Gone. Like the invisible bomber. A guy would be walking down a deck like this and look down, and half the ship under him would disappear. And here he'd be walking across here 20 feet above the water, and the water below him and no deck below him. You know, a couple hours that'll drive you up the wall. And when they got in this electronic force field, this stuff was going on, he said the men froze. And the GIs on the ship, the Swabbies, they had terms for it. Caught in the flow, stuck in the green. The man freezes or burns. In a freeze or burn 1 day to 6 days. Andrew Persif, the merchant marine, gave chief mate's name and the crew numbers. The ship disappeared from one dock in Philadelphia, and 40 minutes later showed up in the Norfolk Portsmouth area. Men were transported when on shore leave. Photos of the Philadelphia Navy Yard, not released till 1977, shows this ship goes from dock in Philadelphia to to Norfolk in 40 minutes. The ship. You don't do that in 40 minutes with any ship. But that one did. During this time, Einstein was employed by the Navy, May 31st to June the 30th, 1944. Special Services Contract Department as a scientific consultant. The Eldridge was launched June the 25th, was the vicinity of the Merchant Marine, Bermuda, July and August, and the Merchant Marine ship that sailed alongside saw this stuff that took place on board the ship. They said the official history of the USS Eldridge was a lie. The U.S. Eldridge came back and said our coordinates were such and such a latitude and such a longitude, and the Merchant Marine said, no, they weren't. You were right alongside us, and we saw the whole thing, and the history, the log of your ship's a lie. Patrick Macy of Los Angeles, 1977, saw a film of it with the top brass who said that some people that had been there were insane and some people had vanished. Now, we'll never know exactly what went on there. Now, I'll never know what went on there, probably, till it's too late to find out. But all this stuff shows that whoever's fooling with UFOs could have developed a system whereby a UFO could sit up there in a cloud and you couldn't see it. Or it could be chased, as they've tracked them in radar out in Arizona and New Mexico. You can track them in radar, and when you follow the blip, there's nothing there. The radar is picking up something that isn't there, that isn't visible. But it must be solid. Now, as far as the documentation goes, I have at home about 200 photographs of UFOs. I'd say maybe half of them are faked. But what are you going to do with the other 100? One of those photographs is 1883 by a fellow named Jose Bonilla in South America, and it shows 50 UFOs in formation. 50 of them. They're cigar-shaped. They look like zeppelins or balloons. They're not clouds. Their edges are just as smooth as a dirigible. There are 50 of them. I've got photographs taken from control towers of airports that show them all over the field. Down there at Tampa, Florida, one night there, the fellows up there at the control tower watched them for 50 minutes. There's any question about what the things are. They've been chased, they've been shot at, they've been entered, planes have collided with them, and that was the end of the plane. I've got photographs of one of those early satellite flights with Borman or somebody going up there and going around the Earth, and the capsule was on, they took excerpts of it and put them in Life magazine. And that thing is going around the Earth, and everybody on television watching that thing go around, and right below that thing, about 5,000 feet, are two of the prettiest UFOs you ever saw, just following the capsule right on around the Earth. And everybody in America saw that thing on television. Somebody said it's a weather balloon. Crazy. No weather balloon. I got a picture of the guy took a photograph out the wing of the plane. The thing's flying along right beside the wing, the shadows in the ground. I got pictures of the next 15 carrying along, I don't know what kind of speed, and the thing right behind it, keeping up just fine. So the things are there. And the only question is, where do they come from? Now, in America today, the news media and TV are preparing you for something. And they work at it night and day and night. Brother White told me up there in Alaska for years and years there was no way to get any information up there, but now he says way back in the bush in Alaska, they have television sets. So it means now that all over the world, the whole world is being moved toward one mental set. Understand? And the more time you spend watching TV and reading newspapers, the more you will adopt that mental set. And that mental set has various ramifications. One of the mental set is to make you think that nothing is different. That's a mental set. You emphasize where people are the same, not where they're different. That's a mental set. That's to get you all together. Now, those mental sets is to make you think that Pope John Paul is a nice, sweet, kind, wonderful man. That's a mental set. You study the history of the popes, and you'll never fall for that one. All right, those are mental sets, and they give you a mental block. One of them is to make you think that all Bible-reading people belong to a cult like Jim Jones. That's one of those mental sets. And those things, they come together to form something. Let me show you one of them. One of those mental sets is to make you think that something is ugly and horrible is pretty or cute. That's a mental set. That's the happy little monsters, or the monster family. Now, it is to make you think that ugly, E.T., ugly, deformed, gross things are pretty. That's a mental set. And it comes through news media, through comic magazines and children's programs and happy little monsters in the Sesame Street. It's to make you accept the grotesque as something that's normal. So it's the mental set. They're molding your mind. Now, of course, they never mold mine. You can understand why. I'm a vicious reactionary. I mean, some makes attempt to mold my mind, they're defeated even if they're right. Now, you take that thing right there, the signs of that. You wouldn't guess those things, but I'm an artist, so you take my word for it. Now, I'm going to try to be very kind what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it. Barbara Streisand has a face that would stop a clock at 30 feet. And John Lennon and, who was that football player that wore the silk stockings? Joe Namath. And Joe Namath have a face that would put a freight train off a railroad track. And what you've been led to believe is that something that's grotesque or twisted is pretty. The heroes they pick. You take Lennon. I mean, what an ugly sucker. What a slob, And somebody like Michael Jackson. I mean, he is the nearest to nothing that ever showed up on this earth outside of cold mush. I mean, naturally the women like him. He looks like a woman. And the men like him because he looks like a man. And the children like him because he looks like a kid. And the black folks like him because he looks black. And the white folks like him because he looks white. You know why everybody likes him? Because he's a zero. Now, they're getting you ready for that. And they're moving you in that way. And there's a reason for that. It's in Revelation chapter 9. I don't think these things come from outer space. But the mindset they're preparing you for is this. They're preparing you to accept somebody from outer space when they come as a savior. That's what they're preparing you for. And they're going to try to make you think that whenever whatever shows up comes down out of wherever the thing is, they've come here to help you and bless you and save you. And as a consequence, in at least 1/4 of these UFO sightings, somebody has been healed after seeing the sighting. We had a wild case down in Pascagoula where two guys down there entered one. And when they got in there and came back out, both of them said these things wore an insignia on their uniforms, and you'd never guess what the insignia was. It was the official insignia of the Health, Education, Welfare Department. And that's what every medic in the Army and Navy Marines has on his uniform. It's a snake on a pole, but it's a flying serpent. You gotta look out for that stuff. All right, Revelation chapter 9. Revelation chapter 9, verse 2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there rose smoke out of the pit, the smoke of a great furnace. Verse 3, and there came out locusts upon the earth. What are locusts doing coming out in smoke? All the locusts I ever into out in Kansas, you got rid of by starting fires and putting up smoke. But this bunch is at home in the smoke, but this is a strange bunch of locusts. Verse 7, they were like horses, they had faces like men, and had hair like women. You ever seen them around? Faces like men and hair like women. You're getting the somebody is preparing you for something. These things are mutations. Keep on reading down through there. They have the combination of a lion, a serpent, a horse, a man, a woman, and a locust. That's 6 of them together. Those things are aberrations. They're genetic monstrosities, those things. Read it down there, 9, 10, 11, 12. Charlie Manson read it. Charlie Manson claimed to be that angel there in that passage. He said he was Abaddon, the destroyer. That little old black spot in his forehead. Well, those things come up, and those things are genetic mutations. So you're getting ready to receive that. What you're getting on television night and day is long-haired males who are just as queer as a $3 bill. and you're being taught they're cute, or they're funny, or they're nice, they're filthy. Revelation chapter 9, verse 10, scorpions, 9, horses. See that thing? Those are genetic mutations. They come from below. Isaiah chapter 34. Isaiah chapter 34. If you have a King James Bible, you'll find this verse. If you don't have a King James Bible, you can't find this verse. Because your modern fundamentalists don't believe in two genetic mutations. They don't believe in centaurs or satyrs. Isaiah chapter 34. Isaiah chapter 34, verse 13. And thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof. It shall be a habitation for dragons and a court for owls. If you have any Bible but a King James Bible, the word dragons is not in your Bible. Modern fundamentalists don't believe in dragons. 14, the wild beast of the desert shall dwell, meet with the wild beast of the island, the satyr, S-A-T-Y-R. How many have that in your Bible? See your hands. All right, if you have a King James Bible, you have satyr. If you don't have a King James Bible, you don't have satyr. I'm in Isaiah chapter 34, verse 14. Didn't I give you the verse? All right, Isaiah 34, 14. And the satyr shall cry to his fellows. See that? Bible mentions unicorns and satyrs. There's one faculty member at Bob Jones of Springfield believes anything of the kind. Nobody but a blank fool would believe in unicorns and satyrs. A blank fool and me. You say believe in satyrs? That's what it says. A satyr is half goat and half man. A satyr is half goat and half man, and a centaur is half horse and half man. You say, well, that couldn't be. It couldn't, huh? People, if you believe in Diplodocus and Stegosaurus and Triceratops and Brontosaurus and Pterodactyl, how come you can't believe in a centaur and a satyr? I mean, you believe in 1,000 Disneyland animals you've never seen in your life, never seen either. Here's Star Wars. Here goes a man walking down there, you know, Link Junk Walker, Luke Walker, Skywalker, his name is. He goes on there, and right behind him is this animal, tobacco juice, whatever it is. And he's walking on like this, like a man, and then right behind him comes a machine like a man. See? And then right behind him becomes a genuine slot machine or a fire plug or something right along behind him. You know what they're trying to tell you? You get the message? They're trying to tell you that organic life can be put in inorganic things like metal. That's what they're trying to tell you. To read back there in Ezekiel chapter 28, where the devil had his pipes and tablets were perfect in the day in which he was created. Soul. Now let me tell you something. If you want light, there it is. And if you want advanced information, there it is. It's not on the computer, because the computer is stupid. All the computer knows is what's put into it. And God put into this book what he didn't put into a computer. Now you take those things right there. I'm guessing from here on. See? I'm guessing they're from downstairs. You know what I think they are? I don't think they are humanoids. I don't think they're superhuman. I think they're genetic mutations. You say, where could those things have come from? All right. Go back there and get Leviticus. Get Leviticus chapter 20. And get Genesis chapter 6. Leviticus chapter 20, Genesis chapter 6. As it was in the days of Noah, Genesis 6, so shall be in the day of the coming of the Son of Man. Genesis 6, Leviticus 20. Leviticus 20, verse 13. God didn't write this book for nothing. Leviticus 20:13. If a man lie with mankind, Rock Hudson, Liberace, Tiny Tim, maybe some of your neighbors, if a man lie with mankind as he lieth with a woman, both them have committed abomination, they shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. What's the punishment for gays in the Bible? Capital punishment. Under the law, you kill them. You say, why do you kill them? So they don't kill you. Verse 15. If a man lie with a beast, he shall be put to death, and he shall slay the beast. And if a woman approach any beast and lie down there too, thou shalt kill the woman and the beast. Yeah, who do a thing like that? Why, all kinds of people did things like that. Look at verse 23. You shall not walk in the manner of the nation which I cast out before you, for they committed all these things. That's why God told them to kill them. You understand? People say, what a terrible thing for God to tell the Israelites to come here and kill all those folks and kill even the babies in some cases. They've been messing with this stuff for centuries. And the Lord said, you mess with them and they'll get you killed. So, well, I can't imagine a thing like that. These haven't been around very much. Amen. That stuff was going on in New Orleans before World War I. And that stuff is probably going on in Las Vegas right now. Amen. Now, you say, well, these genes don't mix. They don't mix since the flood, but Genesis 6, before the flood, you got something else. Genesis 6, verse 1. It came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and the daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, they were fair, and they took the wives of all which they chose. But wait a minute. Verse 7. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast. What's wrong with the animals? And creeping thing, and fowl of the air, for rapinity I have made them. What's wrong with the animals? You know something? When old David over there in 2 Samuel and captured the Syrians, the Lord says, you take those horses and you howl those horses. You cut their hammocks. You cut their hamstrings, you cripple them. You cripple a horse, he's just go to dead. You cut the hamstrings on his hind legs, he can't rise up on his hind legs. You better pay attention to your Bible, people. If I don't miss my guess, the Lord tarries, you're going to see stuff in this country you wouldn't believe, and it's going to be accepted as part of a worship service. And that stuff I gave you back in Leviticus, that was part of their religion. That wasn't their nightclub. That was their religion. You know what those folks taught? They taught that these animals and four-footed and creeping things gradually build up and gradually turn into man. But about the time they got to an ape, you had to have something that come in and hop the gap between the ape and the man. That is, that's what they teach at Cleveland and Toledo and Cincinnati, and where Bo Schembacher teaches. And comes up like this, and something had to come in from outside and inject something that gets you across that bridge that changed you from a beast to a human being. Whatever it was, came down from outer space. So whatever it was, you owe them your salvation for bringing you up from the animal level. You see what I mean, Jelly Bean? Now, all you need to believe that is about 20,000 PhDs in the news media, and you're gone. You know what I think? And I'm guessing. I might be wrong. I'm guessing. I believe the days of Noah and that stuff took place. Some of those things got off this earth. And either got off this earth or got into this earth. And if I was to guess, I would say they got into this earth. And I would say when the flood passed over, they came back up. And when I read history, I know that every pagan people of this earth identified the animal with the god. That's why that cow is sacred in India today. And Ra, the eagle, the sun god, and Isis and Osiris, there's an animal connected with every one of them. You get to the end of your book, you find a woman, and you know what she's doing? She's riding a beast. Revelation 17 and 18. Or they say in the fairy stories, Beauty and the Beast. And your mindset for it is King Kong with the woman, and the Mummy with the woman, and Dracula with the woman, and Frankenstein with they're getting you set up. And folks, I'll tell you, if the Lord tarries, it's going to be Katie bar the door. I hope he doesn't. I hope these things don't show up in the next year down here, and then all the Associated Press and CBS and NBC go cockeyed crazy saying, here's the answer. That isn't the answer. The answer is Jesus Christ. That's the answer. All right, Brother Sound, come ahead. That'll be about enough here. Give him something to think about. Okay. Y'all take a break.